my advice for some of the people that is interviewing right now, the very key thing is really to be, in my personal opinion, I don't think Leetcode is really a very good gauge of someone's software engineering skills for their day-to-day work. So this first step is very important for me because it helped me to build my portfolio. The strategy that I adopt is first, I have a plan. I drafted out the plan in order to succeed in this interview.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Top Mentor podcast, and today we have Edric, who is a software engineer. Welcome, Edric.
Thank you, Victor.
So it's a pleasure to have you here. So Edric has a very interesting story, and I want to start asking you a question that we discussed before the show, your transition. So maybe many people are thinking about transitioning from fields or are late in their career and they want to make a change. Can you tell us your story about your change and how did you approach that?
Cool. So to start off, maybe I will talk about I'm an electrical engineer degree. I'm studying electrical engineer degree in Singapore. And that's the first time I got in touch with programming, and I'm really fascinated with it. I find it very magical. But the first challenge I have is obviously how do I compete with other computer science students? That's my first challenge that I need to overcome. My strategy here is to really start with the people that can help you, like around your zone of influence. So for my case, I reach out to my professor for help. They are the person who can help me, and they can also vouch for my credibility, my capability. I reach out to a few of them, and one of them actually helped me to introduce to one of the founder that is looking for an internship. So this first step is very important for me because it helped me to build my portfolio. Although I have no programming experience, I get started in this field with the help of this founder. And after I built my first Android project, it becomes easier to land a second job. So my second job, I work in a Swiss software company, which is a more established software company where they have proper CI/CD pipeline that I can learn how to ship software in a proper manner. That's like the second milestone that I hit with my internship project. And after that, after I learned so much from my internship project, I knew what are the knowledge gap that I need to fill. And I used those information to study, collect information, and make connections. Eventually land my first software engineer job in Visa in their loyalty team building marketing product. So in summary, if I were to put it, I would say first is to start with your zone of influence, reach out to people that can help you and you are familiar with. And second is to small milestones along the way. And all these small milestones will stack up and have a big compounding effect. And eventually, I think it helps you to land you wherever you want to be.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting story and very interesting advice in terms of you start pinging people on LinkedIn. People tend to be very kind and will help you if they want, like from a limited perspective, of course, because everyone has their tasks. But you can reach out, you can ping someone, help with the CV, help with some references and all of that. And then you can, as you mentioned, you start with internships, you start with doing small projects and all of that, and it's good. So regarding that, I wanted to ask you about the projects that you did and the work that you done on your end. So like, do you think that the hands-on projects that you land in your internship and maybe anything that you have done out of that internships, like GitHub projects and all of that, are core to making a switch or making a very good experience in the software environment?
Okay, sure. I think it's very important once you have your goal in mind, then you try to adapt all your plan according to that goal. So for myself, I initially started with a project with my professor, the professor that ultimately helped me to land my first internship job. So in the beginning, I worked with him on an Android programming project as well. We are developing something very simple. I'm very happy when I managed to integrate things like Google Map into the Android application. Although in reflection, now I look at it, it's really simple, but it's a first step. So taking the first step is important. So that's like the first project that I did, an Android application with my professor. And moving on, I get in touch with this founder. We are developing like a more full-fledged application. There is this Android application, and then there is backend, there is database. So you can see my knowledge is expanding with
Mm-hmm.
me moving to the second project from the Android part. Now I'm learning like MySQL, and then I'm using Java, PHP to process as the backend. So my knowledge expand. And when I move on to the next internship company, which is the Swiss software company, I get in touch with not just the application framework, but also the CI/CD pipeline. How do we build software that is robust, scalable? How do we run enough tests to make sure that there is no human error or mistakes in the code? Those learnings, these are the things that I pick up along the way with different projects. And then moving on, I think the the internship that I had with the Swiss software company really helped me in a way because I meet a lot of experienced software engineer there. They tell me what do I need to work on, what kind of leak code questions I need to tackle, and what kind of system design aspect I need to focus on when I'm designing my project. Yeah, so those insights and advice are very valuable, and it really helped to enhance my computer science knowledge and improve my chance of landing a job in the software engineering industry. Yeah.
No, that's great. Like you see that how seniors are very helpful in the roles, or like people that are mentoring like us, or any others can help in their careers to younger people and can make a lot of impact. So now that you have evolved in the industry and you have worked a lot on it, and you have may gone through some interview processes and these changes that you have experimented, how do you approach the process of searching for a job, preparing for a job in the software industry, and how do you see the trends of that moving forward?
Ah, okay. So a little bit about my job searching journey. I actually started my job search journey at around like 2023, and the job
Mm-hmm.
search lasts for about 7 months. And I have to admit that the current job search scene in the US or even in Singapore is not great. There is a lot of layoff, and there are many people competing for one job. That's like the background of the current software industry. And the strategy that I adopt is first, I have a plan. I drafted out the plan of how do I want to, like my study plan and my learning plan, and how much time I could spend every week, and the different topics that I need to prepare in order to succeed in this interview. So first of all is have a plan, listed down everything that you need to do. Then the second step is to break them down and split them into an actual timeline. Like for the first month, you're going to tackle this part. For the second month, you're going to tackle this part. And once you have a clear plan and breakdown, you will be able to make use of like those small time slices you have in the day to study,
Mm-hmm.
to do your questions. For example, during the time when I'm preparing for my interview, I actually spend my morning to do one lead code question. And then throughout the day, I utilize like small breaks when I'm transiting or I am going out for lunch. When I'm walking, I try to read something about software engineering. It helps with
Mm-hmm.
my preparation. And then at an evening, I will go back and try to do a mock system design interview on my own. So those are like the strategies that I have for the actual job preparation. And my advice for some of the people that is interviewing right now, the very key thing is really to be patient. With the current job market, there are a lot of candidates out there, and the job searching journey is going to be longer. So first thing is to really be patient with the outcome, and then have a plan and work the plan. Yeah.
No, that's a very good insight. I see that people are, the market is not at the best at the moment, but having a plan and having a strategy to land a job and to do the search and to structure how it's going to be, is a great advice, because if you don't have a plan, you tend to do Leetcode and then you start bulking on Leetcode, and then after a month you forget how, what you have learned, and this is a very tricky kind of system. And then system design is, especially if you haven't done any thinking about system designs and how it's done, I think it's one of the best way to interview someone, because you think big and you start connecting the dots, and that's a very interesting topic for software architecture. But also it requires study. Like you need to learn how to do this certain type of problems, even though you are a good experienced one. It's not the same like measuring request times, and if you are on cloud names and all of that, is like a lot of concepts in that topic. So regarding that preparation steps, how did you approach the long interviews? Like maybe you have lead codes and then you have system design. So how did you balance that? And also, how did you balance it with the behavioral kind of questions? Like, how did you prepare that part? Because I think that part is interesting.
Cool, cool. So I think my advice here from my personal experience is first you have to identify the role that you're applying for. For example, for me, although I come from a backend engineer background, the next role that I want to apply is something like a full stack software engineer, but with more focus on the backend, maybe. This information is important because it determines what kind of preparation you have to do. If I'm interviewing for a full stack software engineer, I will have to prepare for the front end interview. And for the front end interview, typically they have the rounds where you have to code something very quickly based on the UI that they provided you. And then you will have to code very fast according to their styling requirement and different type of UI requirement that they have. I have to prepare like a React template beforehand. And then also I use Tailwind as a CSS framework that allows me to code something very quick. And it's really suitable when it comes to interview. Yeah, so that's like the first tip is to know what kind of role you want to apply for and then find out what those interview rounds comprise of. And then you can prepare accordingly. So that's for front end. And second tips I can give is also try to drill down to the industry that you're applying because right now the competition is very intense between the candidates. One thing you could do to stand out is outside of the technical expertise, you can have a bit of the domain knowledge as well. For example, the current job that I'm in, I'm a Web3, like a blockchain gaming company. So a bit of Web3 knowledge will be helpful. So before I come to this company, I did a lot of read up in terms of the smart contract, the Web3 technologies, and to really build my understanding on Web3. And when I go into the interview, for example, when I'm doing the system design, I could sort of bring the concept of the Web3 into the system design. And that kind of draw the interviewer to your explanation because you're speaking a language that they can understand. Yeah, so that's my second tips to know the industry that you are applying for. And the third one is regarding the balance of time in the preparation between lead code, system design, and maybe project. So for my experience so far, I have spent about 60% of my time on lead code because I have done a lot of system design during my work. I also utilize my job like my time at my job as an opportunity to practice my system design skills, to participate in more discussion so that I can reduce my preparation time for system design. So lead code are the part that I focus more on because like we don't really invert binary tree in our job, right? So that's the
Yeah.
part I need to really brush up on. And for project is I just make sure that I focus more on the technical side. I really know the in and out of every technical decision I have made. On top of that, I also try to understand every business product decision because during the interview, sometimes the interviewer might want to know whether you have the product sense or whether you have the sense of ownership of not just looking at the technical side, but rather the success of the whole project. Yeah.
No, that's good. Like, yeah, I believe that that's a very good strategy, and also you can leverage your work to focus on more things. If you can focus on system designs or lead code, depends on the type of projects. If you are more of a developer and you are developing complex algorithms, then you can focus on lead code kind of problems, and then you spend more of your time on system design and vice versa. So regarding this, I know it's a very sometimes it's a very controversial topic. So I want to just know your opinion about the lead code kind of evaluation in interviews. And how do you think it really fits the recruitment kind of part, or if you think that there are other approaches that could be better to select a developer?
Yes, yes. I think it's a very good and controversial topic for sure, because I think a lot of people has been expressing their dissatisfaction for the lead code process in the industry, but it has been there for such a long time. In my personal opinion, I don't think lead code is really a very good gauge of someone's software engineering skills for their day-to-day work. I would say it's a good tools to act as a gatekeeper to just see how determined you are, how much preparation you have made. That's one thing. And second is, do you have the maybe the intelligence or to solve those questions? Like, I see like the function that this lead code round serve is really just act as a gatekeeper to help the recruiters to filter the amount of candidates that's coming in. Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's an effective tool to filter like suitable candidates for daily jobs. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah, yeah, go on, go on.
thank you. Like, I haven't thought about it like that. Well, I thought about it when I was doing some interviews like that, and I was saying, this doesn't translate. I mean, it could translate somehow because you have, like, for example, you get to know how an index of an SQL database may work on the background, but you don't care. Like, you index and it's faster and that is stored on memory, and that's what you need to know. You don't have to care about how it's stored if you are not going to develop SQL systems. But I believe that it's a gatekeeper as well. Like, you have to work on that. It's not going to transition because the job it's almost impossible to have a part of the interview that is similar to your job. You could do it with a project, and I agree that, for example, in my case, that's the best way to have a project that is similar to the stack that you're going to work on, if possible. But also, Leetcode is like a flagger. Like, if you are not able to do it, if you are not able to explain it, then you'll have a problem, because that's another topic that I see on interviews, that people start writing code and then the interviewer is like, and no, there is not a word on saying explaining. And I recall that when I did that, it was like I was talking all the time, all the time saying, I have to do this, I have to do that, I don't know how to do this, how to do that. And at least you are providing insights to the recruiter, because otherwise it's like, what is this guy doing?
Sometimes the code itself is self-explanatory. So the high-level design, I think it's something important to convey clearly and concisely to the interviewer. And the rest of the code should be clear enough. You could either use functions or command to make your code much more readable. And yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's great. So now that you are working for a company and that you have some experience in the industry, what are your systems, or what are your advices in terms of staying sharp and learning new things and moving forward? And let's say not to lose the scope, because I believe sometimes we start learning so many things and after all we don't consolidate anything. So what's your approach on that?
Yes, that's a good question as well. I think it should be like what you should learn should be broken down into the phases you are in. I think in the early stage of your career, you should really focus on the technical skills that is relevant to what you're doing. For example, if you are working as a backend software engineer, then you should definitely learn more about microservices, how does deployment work, how does monitoring works, those kind of things that goes into helping you to do your job better. Because ultimately, the respect that you will gain from your job is the amount of value that you could deliver. As a software engineer, your technical skills is the biggest value that you can bring to the table in the early stage. So getting your fundamentals right and try to read as much as possible that is closely related to your current job. I think that's the important first step. And
Mm-hmm.
secondly is try to stay humble. And staying humble doesn't mean that you couldn't have different opinion, but it's rather you try to listen actively and try to process and try to be objective, remind yourself to be objective, and then give your opinions. I think that's the thought process you should go to. And after a long period of time, you will realize that people are willing to tell you stuff or they are willing to discuss things with you. And that's how you learn new stuff from other people as well. I pick up so knowledge from different people, be it product managers, junior software engineer, or senior software engineer, by being humble. Rather, I will ask for their feedback, their opinion to start the conversations, and then I try to give my feedback and then propose my solution. Yeah, that's one way I think people could learn better by staying humble. And that's like the early phases. I think moving forward, after the early stage of your career, you should have a clear mindset of what you would like to approach in the future. Like you are more interested in the technical part, and then you would like to be a tech lead or a principal engineer, or you would like to be a manager, you want to get into a more managerial role. So after the first 2 3 years of your career, you should plan forward to see what kind of skill set you need for the direction that you're going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also very important to not just learn everything, but rather being focused on your passion. Yeah, so that's the second step. And then one skills that I think it's very valuable throughout my entire career is really the ability to communicate concisely and clearly, be an empathetic listener. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes something you are very technical, but probably your audience is a product manager that it's not so technical, and you should be empathetic, and then you should know how to phrase a response in a way that they could understand, and you also addresses the concerns or the things that they care most. So this is also one of the very valuable skills I think everyone should have in the software industry.
Yeah, I totally agree. And being able to communicate with the different stakeholders, especially when you are moving higher in your career, you will deal with more manager people that doesn't necessarily have to have technical knowledge, product management, different stakeholders, maybe client, customers that really don't care about technicalities. They just care about the product working and doing the solving the problem that they want to get solved, and that's why they pay basically to solve their problem. And sometimes that's diluted in the mind of the software developers. We focus a lot on technicalities, we focus a lot on technologies, but sometimes it's just a simple thing that solves a problem. And that's the value, and that's why the customers and the stakeholders are there for nothing else. Like you are on Amazon because you want to your products to be here in one day, or you want on Netflix because you want to see a movie instantly and not to rent it or whatever it was. So that's something in mind, and I believe that people, as early as they could get that idea in their minds, the better, because they will start to develop the soft skills that you mentioned as part of their stack, which is also very important. And connecting to that, I also believe that the mentoring part has some benefits on that part, like you start developing soft skills. So I wanted to ask you, like, why, which moment in your career you started this mentoring process, and what's the benefits that you have got from it?
Okay. So I think the reason why I started mentoring is really because of I see the immense benefit of being a mentor. Back like in the early stage of my career, I was also a mentee myself. I was learning so much from the seniors, And one thing I find mentoring fascinating is even though I spend so much time studying hard, grinding through all the software related books, but when I talk to my seniors, I still learn something totally new. Like, I have never heard of this, I have never heard of that. And when they tell me, it's like open a totally new area of knowledge for me, and I can start to explore it myself. So that's what the greatest value that a mentor can provide, is to really tell me what I don't know. Yeah, so for those knowledge that I already know, I can dig deeper, find a direction myself. But for the things that I don't know, I think that's where mentor can really help. And yeah, so I really received so much help in the early stage of my career. And I also heard a lot of feedback from my mentor saying that being a mentor themselves also helped them to grow, like to build their influence, also help them with their communication skills. They also learn how to communicate something in a clear manner, step by step, so that the mentee can understand. So I decided to give it a try. And then, yeah, I think that's very true. Like being a mentor yourself can really help you so much.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's one of the benefits that it's a two-way street. Even though you are helping and you are developing other people, you are learning how to communicate the ideas, you are learning how to maybe structure projects and maybe how to share that to other people that have less knowledge, and that could apply to your company as well, because when you are selling other stuff, it doesn't mean that people have to understand it the right way. You are not going to land technical people that at the first time. So when you have an inquiry or you have someone reach out to you on the mentoring side, how do you approach these first steps to establish the mentorship? Because I believe that's when aspiring mentors are having struggles and to start, and yeah, I will be able to help or not. How do you approach this?
Ah, okay. So usually when an inquiry come in, I will take a look at their requirement to have a first gauge on whether I can help them. If what they mention in the message itself is something too far from my expertise, I would politely reject them because I don't think I can help with every aspect. For example, I'm not in DevOps or security experts, and obviously I couldn't mentor you on those topics. So for the first filtering, I would just look at the message that they have sent me and the requirement that they have. And secondly, once I identified some areas that I could potentially help this mentee, I will set up a call to also understand better of their requirement. So I think that's a very essential first step, because sometimes mentoring doesn't always work out because of the dynamic of the human interaction, the relationship. So I think a first call is to really gauge like whether your personality match, or is there like a big red flag for you or for them. So it's like a very good gauge. So I also have experience where the mentee super excited and is ready to jump into mentorship, but after the call, they kind of cool down and then realize maybe my expertise or maybe my personality isn't the right fit for them, and they politely reject me. Yeah, so I think that's also one of the key things I do, is to have a first video call to gauge how things goes between both sides.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I approach similarly. I tend to override away 15 minutes and then extend to whatever to see, because on text-based communication, especially at first, it's difficult to send all the info that you want and to know the other people. And then when you have a call, you discuss the goals, and so because sometimes people doesn't have the goals clear, they want to learn and they want to improve, but then you need to focus on narrow down so that you can have a clear goal. And that's also something that is very difficult to get from a start without a face-to-face community. So regarding when you have this sorted out, what's your approach on the mentoring side? Like what do you tend to do with your mentees in your day-to-day or week-to-week basis?
My approach here is I would usually set up a goal for them, and the goal can be split into short-term goal and then long-term goal. It depends on what they want to achieve basically. It could be getting an interview, or it could be getting a promotion. So based on that, we try to draft them a roadmap how they should approach this, and it should be broken down into milestone as well, because milestone is important to really give you a motivation boost so that you can continue with the journey. So the first step is to draft out the roadmap with the significant achievement as the milestone. And then secondly is to help them to draft the plan on how they should approach this roadmap, like based on their own schedule, how much time they can spend on studying. We draft a plan together to adapt to this roadmap, and then we see what are the reasonable timeline for this achievement. And the third step is to really provide them with guidance along the way, because they have plans sorted out. They just have to go down to the execution. They will be doing things every week, and then we will have like a meeting. Typically nowadays is bi-weekly or monthly. We will have a call, and during those calls I will have a document ready, and the document will be broken down into sections. There will be sections saying what are the key achievements that you would like to celebrate this month, what are the improvements that you would like to make for next month, and how do you think me as a mentor could help you better. And then I also will give some of the feedback that I consolidate throughout the. Yeah, that's typically how it goes.
I think that feedback approach that you have is great because sometimes we as mentors we focus a lot on what could be do to help and then maybe asking your mentees the best solution to know okay how can I help you here, how can I help you there, any feedback that you have, because I tend to do it as well, not that structured, but I tend okay how can we go to that, and I sometimes I have ideas and I can suggest, but up until that moment, because the only one that wants to know is the mentee, and that has their goal is there, and then they could see some other things during the week because we only have the sessions. Like I cannot help you everywhere, and we also have chat, so we can discuss there and we can switch and we can move. People have to understand that this is flexible and we can adapt. Like I always say, we can adapt, we can move. If I have the knowledge and I have the skills to help you, we can adapt. It's like it is what it is. Life is flowing, and you should adapt to it. So, and regarding for those people that are starting or are considering mentoring, that are seniors or intermediates or whatever stage in their career and they want to help others, what advice would you say to your maybe your younger self when you're starting, and to these people so they can benefit from it?
I think one thing that most people would suffer is probably the imposter syndrome, where they feel like they are not capable of helping others, or they are not professional, or they're not proficient enough to help others. I would say try to ditch away those thoughts and really try to identify your own strength and weaknesses. And for the strength that you have, you can list down how you could help other people or how you could help your younger self. That's one way to really picture what kind of offering you can bring to the table and how you could really bring value to your mentee as well. Because I think there is a saying in English that I can't remember the exact words, but the best person to learn is really the person that's two, three steps ahead of you. If you try to learn from a principal engineer, you might not be able to understand what what they are trying to tell you. But if you learn from someone, could be a junior software engineer, but they are 2 3 years ahead of you, they can give you very practical on the ground advice that you could use. So for those that has the thought of still hesitant of whether being a mentor or not, I would suggest really sit down, list down your strengths, and see how you could help people. And go ahead if you feel like there is enough values that you could provide. Or if you feel like you need to do more learnings, I think that's okay as well. I mean, mentoring doesn't always happen in a formal fashion. It could also happen in your job as well. There's always like some people new joining your company. You could try mentoring from there and see if you are comfortable doing that. If you feel like you can do it and you can actually bring value to people, then you could potentially consider expanding it to people outside your daily life. Yeah.
No, I totally agree, and I think that's very good advice. Sometimes you get to know advanced people, and then they are not able to translate because when their stage was too long ago, we forget about it. And then if you are for more intermediates or just senior levels, they are able to translate more because their junior parts were closer in time, so that they can provide you with help and with some simpler examples than rather a principal could maybe overflow you with communication. So that's awesome. And also overcoming the imposter syndrome, just like you try, you do whatever you want, and then you will be increasing yourself and making yourself better step by step. So maybe you're starting mentorships doesn't work, it is what it is. You try to deal it with as much transparency as you can, be able to communicate, be able to tell them, okay, this doesn't work, it's okay, refund, whatever, it's fine, I'm learning too. And then you will start getting better, as with everything, repetition, 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 and then you will be able to help others and be able to be a great professional. I totally agree with that. So yeah, I think that's been a great episode, and we covered a lot of topics. So just for the audience to get to know you, you can say where they can find you and what content are you putting out there.
Cool. So I think if the audience are interested in finding more about me, they can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and I write a lot of posts related to software engineering, productivity, and also the project that I'm working on. And then I try to consolidate them into something short and sweet that you can understand. So yeah, do follow me if you're interested to find out more.
Yeah, I can relate that Edric provides a lot of insights in the software articles that he publishes or he comments out. I like them a lot because I am also a geek in terms of RSS kind of blogs, so engineering kind of trendy things, and I love what you share. So Edric, once again, thanks a lot for being on the podcast. It's been great, and I believe that mentors and aspiring engineers will benefit a lot. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.